And so we have arrived at Dracula. Now, last week I posted some short videos of different movies of Dracula, or I should say film clips of Dracula movies that have been extant for quite some time, beginning with Nosferatu. Now, Nosferatu was quite an unsavory character, and no one would find him attractive by any stretch of the imagination. Or I'm sorry, if you find Nosferatu, Count Orlok, attractive, there's just something wrong with you. But we segue into Bela Lugosi, whom women did find attractive. And so you have that first shift from Orlok to Lugosi, and then after that, the vampire continues to become more and more attractive until we get up into very modern times, into Anne Rice's vampires, Lestat and others, and also the Twilight series, with which I am not very familiar and not likely to become very familiar because I saw the first movie and I just wasn't impressed. But back to Bram Stoker's Dracula, that really did start the big craze about vampires and set the precedence for later vampires. Now, the novel, like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, was written in a epistolary style, and that it is entirely composed of journal entries and letters. And it begins with Jonathan Harker, who has traveled from London, or England, I shouldn't say London, who has traveled from England to Transylvania in order to seal a deal with the mysterious Count Dracula, who has bought property in England and is going to go there and live. And so Harker arrives in Transylvania, and right away he notices that there is something fishy going on. And when he arrives and he is waiting for someone to transport him, the people in the inn are talking about him, and I'm going to quote a little bit here, so bear with me. I must say the people were not cheering for me, for amongst them were Ordog, Satan, Pokal, Hell, Strigwaka, Witch, Werlock, and Vlakoslok. I'm probably not pronouncing those correctly. Both mean the same thing, one being Slovak and the other Serbian, for something that is either werewolf or vampire. Now remember, I mentioned this last week, and I don't know if I stressed it enough. People who were werewolves were often thought to turn into vampires when they were finally killed. Not only that, mean people were often thought to turn into vampires when they died. And it goes, and back to the first chapter of the book, it goes on, and as they are leaving the inn, and they get to outside of Dracula's castle, it is said, "For the dead travel fast." And so you have some foreshadowing there of something fishy going on. And then we see Dracula for the first time. And I'm going to quote, "Within stood a tall old man, clean shaven save for a long white moustache and clad in black from head to foot, without a single speck of color about him anywhere. He held in his hand an antique silver lamp, in which the flame burned without a chimney or globe of any kind." And going on, he said, "I pray you be seated and sup how you please. You will, I trust, excuse me that I do not join you, for I have dined already, and I do not sup." And of course, to sup means to eat. It's where we get the word supper. And this is, of course, Count Dracula. And Dracula is not going to join Harker in his meal, of course, because he can't join Harker in his meal. I guess that he could go through the methods or the process of eating, but of course it isn't going to do him any good. And of course he does not get any nourishment or sustenance from it. But Harker continues on to talk about the Count and his appearance. "Hitherto I had noticed the back of his hands that they lay on his knees in the firelight, and they had seemed rather wide and fine, but seeing them now close to me, I could not notice that they were rather coarse, broad, with squat fingers. Strange to say, there were hairs on the center of the palm. The nails were long and fine and cut to a sharp point. As the Count leaned over me and his hands touched me, I could not repress a shudder. It may have been that his breath was rank, but a horrible feeling of nausea came over me, which, do what I would, I could not conceal. So Harker gets his first experience with the Count. And I'm not going to belabor it because there's going to be a discussion board talking about some of the aspects of vampires. But in this scene and the scenes to come, I want you to be looking for signs that say Dracula is a vampire, because at this point, of course, Harker doesn't know that.